I love cars. No, not those kinds of cars. This car.
Yeah, good job!
Like most kids around my age, I was obsessed with Lightning McQueen, but it was hard not to be because he was everywhere. Disney definitely knew that they had a hit on their hands because you literally could not escape him because he was too fast. He is speed. But despite there being only 3 movies, they somehow came out with 8 video games. Even more if you count the handheld and browser games as well. You had Cars movie games, spin-off games featuring Mater, hell, even a Cars MMORPG that you probably never heard of because it shut down after less than 2 years. Disney was really squeezing that little red car for all they could, and I know my boy McQueen was tired. But despite there being so many games and me loving cars as a kid, I never played a single one of them. So in an effort to recapture my youth, I'm playing every single Cars video game in one day. A time frame that I arbitrarily made up because I don't want to spend 7 months making this video like I did for Shrek. Here are the rules. I play each video game for at least 1 hour. A lot of people were also upset that I skipped the handheld games for Shrek, so I will be playing the DS games, but since they're technically the same game, they are included within the same hour. And lastly, at the end, we'll rate each game with a ka-chow or ka-choo and ultimately determine what is the best Cars game ever made, if any of them are even good. Cars the video game was released on June 6, 2006, 3 days before the release of the movie, which is a very strange choice. Most video game movie games will just follow the main story of the movie, but this game is actually its own cohesive story set after the events of the film, which would be a very strange thing for a kid to experience this game before even seeing the movie, but whatever. The game opens just like the movie with Lightning McQueen's famous line, which has me giddy with nostalgia.
1 winner, 4 losers. Okay, let's do this.
I mean, the game opens just like the movie. Right off the bat, I can tell that the voices sound pretty good, and lo and behold, they actually got the original cast back to do all the voices. I mean, the voices are pretty good. I can't even tell if that's actually them or not. It's always a good sign for these games. Everyone except Owen Wilson, who's actually played by Keith Ferguson, because I guess Owen was too expensive. Keith is probably best known for playing Reaper in Overwatch, but he's also popular for doing a lot of sound-alike work too, like Indiana Jones and Robot Chicken, Megamind in the sequel movie that we don't talk about, and of course, Lightning McQueen. I think he actually does a pretty great job, because I legitimately couldn't tell if it was him or not.
Yeah. Showtime.
You start off with a race around Radiator Springs. Oh shit. I don't like that he screams out in pain when he gets hit. Most of the time when I play racing games, I just hit the guardrail because it's easier than stopping. But I got distracted by the music because, ooh, look, they have All American Rejects. And this guy named Bruno with a very unfortunate last name that I'm not allowed to say. What's with the name? That is an unfortunate last name for Bruno. Unfortunately, these are all probably copyright, so I had to turn off the music, which made it extremely depressing. I let you do that. It really just doesn't hit the same driving around with absolutely no music. The driving itself is actually pretty good. It feels like a nice, solid racing game. I like how he kind of jiggles a little bit. But it's pretty boring. Probably because it's extremely easy. Let's go.
I love being me.
Dude, a whole 20 seconds ahead? That's insane. I even turned the difficulty up all the way and still got first place. I could probably speed run this game if I wanted to, but I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to. But I totally could if I wanted to, but I'm not. I'd probably get first place. Anyways, the game is semi-open world where you drive around interacting with other cars, doing missions like more races, tipping tractors with Mater, or murdering Doc. Bye, Doc. It's been fun. All in all, it's actually a pretty enjoyable game and definitely one of the more high-quality movie tie-in games that I've played. Now, I did say that I would play all the handheld games too because for some reason, I guess people really like to reminisce about those, but they count within the same first hour of the game. So it's, you know, still the first hour, we're throwing that in there because if I had to play Cars, the DS version, for anything longer than 10 minutes, I would probably not kill myself, but like a step before that. Not that dramatic, but like a step before that. I'm not a hater on handheld games, all right? I used to love DS and Game Boy games. I played them growing up, but I'm not nostalgic about them in any way. I have no desire to go back and play the Ice Age game or the Incredibles, both of which I loved as a child, because how am I gonna go to an open world, pretty good Cars game to this? You just sit there and avoid other cars. I was bored out of my mind. Do you think there was kids that were like, oh, I can't wait to play the Cars game, and then they get their little DS version and they're like, what the f is this? They couldn't even bother to get the original voice actors back for this version either. They just used some text and that's it. It's it. They could have at least reused some lines from the original video game, but I think you have to actually still pay them. You can't just reuse lines if you're using it for something else. So I don't know. Still, it's so lazy. It sucks. All right. Anyways, that concludes my first hour of playing every Cars game. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I enjoyed it, actually. I think I'm gonna rate that a ka-chow. The Nintendo DS version on the other hand. That's gonna have to go with a Kerchoo. I did not enjoy that. I don't enjoy any of the handheld ones, man. They're not fun as an adult man. Cars Radiator Springs Adventure is the second... Wait, why is everything in black and white now?
Can you believe that this guy doesn't know how to cook?
That's not true. I know how to cook.
Did you know he's so lazy he has food delivered straight to his door?
Okay, well, I mean, that is true, but why is everything black and white? And why is the aspect ratio messed up now?
Don't you get it? You're in an infomercial now.
Oh.
The hardest part about staying in shape is the food. You can go to the gym as much as you like, but if you're not eating right, all that progress just goes kapooey. And meal prepping is annoying. You see all those dirty dishes in Skyler's sink? That's just from one day! With Factor meals, you can have dietitian-approved meals, fresh and never frozen, handcrafted from actual chefs, delivered straight to your door. Meal prepping involves time and making a mess and eating the same thing for 7 days in a row. Who has the stomach for that? I don't. But with Factor meals, you can choose from a menu of 35 options, including Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or vegan and veggie options. Factor meals is also way cheaper than takeout food, and you know exactly how many calories you're consuming. Skyler's a busy guy because he's playing all those Cars video games. There's no time to cook a full meal, so in just a couple minutes he has a chef-prepared meal ready to eat so he can get back to playing all those games. And thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. Every purchase directly helps support the channel so he can keep making videos just like this. Get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone.
Cars Radiator Springs Adventures is another one of those point-and-click games for kids, and I paid $20 on Steam for it, and that's $22 too many. They should have paid me for this, because even by 2006 standards, it's pretty bare bones and sad. Lightning Queen's Racing HQ. Let's go there first. What is that? Oh, that's literally just the settings. And as the realization kicks in that I'm stuck playing this for the next hour, it hurts, but at least maybe I'll learn something, or something, I don't know. The biggest positive about this, though, is that there is actually voice acting, and our boy Keith Ferguson is back again doing a bang-up job. You could blindfold me, slap my ass, and tell me that's Owen Wilson, and I would believe you.
You know, I got some great dance moves myself. Check this out.
Did they get Owen Wilson for this too? I prefer if you didn't do that though, because I would believe you either way without all that extra stuff. They also got Larry the Cable Guy back for this too, which is good because no one could replace Mater. And everything I've heard about Larry the Cable Guy, I heard that he's just a super awesome guy. So that doesn't have anything to do with anything, but I think that's cool. Anyways, there's no story to the game. It's just 10 minigames thrown together featuring some of the characters from the movie. And all of the minigames are just reskin versions of some other common games, which is typical for these point-and-click games. But I don't know, these aren't really as fun as other games, I feel like. Here's a quick rundown. Hip Hop It Up features Ramon, where you match the arrow keys to the beat of the song. Oh, it's just Simon Says. Okay. I wasn't paying attention. All right. This is so dumb. Filler Up takes place at Flo's Cafe, where you click on the pictures in the same order shown, which is basically Simon Says. And the point of that is that so you help Flo fill up the customers with gas, which, I mean, in the context of the Cars universe, that sounds kind of dirty. I mean, I'm pumping these living beings up with fluid. It seems wrong. I feel like they should be doing that by themselves behind closed doors or in the privacy of their own home or like a bathroom stall or something. Seems like a very private procedure. Doc's tune-up involves operating on other cars. Lightning McQueen is now performing botched operations in the back of Doc's office. Kind of like the Scary Maze game. Boo! Did I scare you? All right, let's see. I swear to God, if this one is also just like Simon Says, I'm gonna lose it. Sarge's obstacle course is one where you just jump and drive over obstacles. Drive in and out is like the tile sliding puzzles. Oh, this is easy. Luigi's Fantastico Fun is exactly like Lilo and Stitch's 625 Sandwich Stacker. Every single children's movie had a game like this. Radiator Springs Curious is a memory game where you match the items to the original. Okay, this is ridiculously easy. Toe the Line is like Snake. Tractor Roundup is with Mater and rounding up all the tractors. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And finally, Speed Trap involves the sheriff chasing down those troublemaking hot rods. Oops. Besides all the mini games, they do have a whole nother mode called Legends Race, where you drag race against various characters, which consists of just clicking the mouse at the right moment while driving. However, in order to unlock the secret to the race, you have to complete the mini game associated with the Legend Race. The secret being the ability to see when to click with the mouse. Otherwise, you just have to guess and get the timing right. What? I lost that? Because I got one wrong? Overall, it's just not very fun at all, and actually kind of difficult. Dude, I don't understand. I'm right there. But more importantly though, as this Steam review pointed out, drag racing is definitely a moral dilemma and not appropriate for kids. They should be filling other cars up with gas and operating on them instead. All in all, even as a game made for kids, this game sucked, which means hour 2 has concluded. All right, everybody to ka-chow. It's not that bad. For it being like a point and click game, not that bad. Cars made our national championship, released in 2007, and is our third video game based on the world of Cars. Mind you, there's still only been one single movie, yet they've churned out 3 games already. These guys are unstoppable. And Cars Mater National Championship is basically Cars 1, but reskinned and repackaged to be all about Mater. I can only assume that Pixar really underestimated how popular Cars would be, let alone the character of Mater, so they scrambled and threw together this game reusing a bunch of assets.
I don't know, man. This seems like the most cash grab game ever, but we'll see.
Actually, fun fact, the term cash grab was actually coined because of this game. That's not true. I just made that up. I don't know why I said that. The game feels exactly like the first game. You have the same menu, the same racing elements, you even start out by doing the same exact race as the first game.
I'm so confused by this game.
So when I say that this is a reskinned game featuring Mater, that's literally what it is. It's crazy. Lightning McQueen is featured in the game, and they got our boy Keith back, but he noticeably does have a lot less lines.
Does he talk? Wait, hold on. That one did not sound like Owen Wilson at all.
I assume because they wanted to save some money, and you can tell because this time they didn't even bother getting any licensed music from the previous games. It's all just generic background music. Racing around Radiator Springs doesn't hit the same unless I have All American Rejects blasting in my ear. They couldn't even bother getting better music for any of the mini games that literally involve music. There's this part where you play as the hot rod and you have to follow the beat of the songs, and I'm gonna play the clip here with no music, and I want you to guess what song or vibe of the song you think is playing for this.
Yeah, this is my favorite song.
Whatever you guessed, I'm confident that you wouldn't have guessed it was this.
A world of rhythm and cool.
Is this really the best song they could get for this, though? Because this doesn't look like any kind of song that he would be dancing to.
Also, the racing just doesn't feel as snappy and responsive to me, but considering it's all the same engine, that's probably in my head and I'm just being a hater. Tomato. But they also must have upped the AI or something, because one of my first races, I got bested by the one and only, the Hudson Hornet himself, Doc Hudson.
Losing doesn't automatically make you a loser, right?
It was an honor to lose to you, sir. All in all, this is literally just a reskinned Cars 1 with Mater front and center, but somehow, it feels a lot worse. If you're a kid, you probably wouldn't have even noticed, and if you love Mater, you probably love this game. But to me, 28-year-old man, I noticed THQ. I noticed. The Cars Mater National Championship DS version, though, that is a huge improvement. They actually incorporated the cutscenes from the console version, so there's at least a story that makes sense there.
Oh man, that bad audio quality brings me back.
And there's actual racing in this game, while the other one was just a bunch of mini games.
Why was the Cars DS game not like this?
There's no way that handheld technology improved that much in just 1 year. I'm completely baffled and confused on how bad the Cars DS game was, and this was okay. It's a decent handheld game. I mean, they were actually similar to each other. I think as a kid, you wouldn't be disappointed if you picked the handheld version for Mater instead of the console version. I don't know what happened here, but maybe that's a trend for future handheld games, that they'll be better. But anyways, on to the next hour of Cars games.
I'm gonna have to give PS2 Cars Mater National a kerchew. I don't think it was that great. I think it was just a reskinned version of the first game, and it wasn't nearly as good. But I think the DS version, though, is a huge upgrade from like the other one. So that one is definitely getting a ka-chow from me. This is getting a ka-chow for sure.
Ka-chow. Remember how I said cash grab was invented because of Cars Mater National Championship? I take that back. It was actually invented because of Cars Race-O-Rama, released in 2009. Still before the second movie has even come out yet, this apparently takes place after the events of Mater National Championship and before the events of the second film, which is still 2 years away from this point. But instead of it being a sequel, it feels like they took Lightning McQueen, ripped out all of his guts and car parts, and left him as an empty shell of his former self. Even though they got Keith Ferguson back, you can tell that his heart is just not in this one.
Time to show him what a precision instrument of speed and aerodynamics can do.
That cannot be the same Lightning McQueen voice actor that they've been getting this whole time.
Now, one thing I admit I messed up on is playing the PS2 version of this game. The PS3 came out in 2006, which is way older than I thought it would be, but this came out in 2009, so I'm really not sure why I didn't pick the PS3 version. I guess I didn't do the research enough and I just didn't realize. So I realized the big difference when I looked up some gameplay on YouTube and thought, hey, why doesn't mine look like this? It probably would have slightly made up for the rest of the game, but the game still isn't pretty good. But it would have been nice to play the PS3 version, but whatever. Really, the only difference is probably some performance, and the graphics do look a lot better on the PS3 version. but outside of that, I'm pretty sure it's the same. Anyways, the game itself is not terrible. It's not so bad it's funny, it's just painfully average. They didn't really do anything to innovate on the gameplay, and they even took some features away. It just feels like worse. There's 5 levels that are semi-open world that you can explore while competing in races against other cars, just like every other Cars game. Except this time, the driving is worse, the AI feels worse, and everything just feels worse. And aside from the main base game, I think where this is most apparent that this is a lazy cash grab game is in the mini game section. I saw that there was a game called Guido Kart, where I assume would be like a Mario Kart clone, which sounds awesome, except it was terrible. You drive around on a track and you get 4 power-ups to choose from. 2 of them are just a speed boost, and the other is a cloud of smoke, and the last one is a ghost ability which lets you drive through boxes, you know, since going around them is so hard. And even more lazy is when you pick up the ghost power, you can't even tell that you're in ghost mode, you just look the same. That alone speaks to the laziness about this game. Mind you, the very first Mario Kart launched with 12 power-ups in 1992. I think they would have been better off just full sending a Mario Kart clone in the Cars universe instead of giving us this half-assed baked potato of a game. And after experiencing that travesty, I really don't have any desire to complete any of the other mini-games, so we move on to Race-O-Rama for the DS, which, as you saw for the last game, the handheld market has hit a huge boom in evolution, so I can't wait to see what they come up with here. This looks like it's gonna be just the exact same. Nope, don't get too excited, because they cheaped out on that too. There's no voice acting, no cutscenes, just some generic music with some text on the screen, and then some boring-ass races. I mean, at least there is actually racing, so I'll give them that, but come on, there's no way that kids are actually enjoying this game. And I will defend this until the day I die. I know some of you guys have great memories with the handheld games and playing DS. There's some DS games I loved, and I loved my Game Boy, but like, looking back, if I wanted to play Race-O-Rama for the PS3, and instead I chose Race-O-Rama for the DS, and I got this, I would be so disappointed. Do kids know the difference? Do kids think that they're getting the same game? I don't remember how it was back then, but it boggles my mind how they were so bad. But anyways, we move on. They're both getting Kerchoos. Both of those are just huge downgrades to before. Kerchoos all around. The World of Cars Online was a massively multiplayer online racing game launched on June 10th, 2010 and shut its servers down less than 2 years later on February 8th, 2012. There was actually a big trend of these Disney online games around that time frame. I personally played a ton of Virtual Magic Kingdom, but there was also Pixie Hollow Online, Pirates of the Caribbean Online, but since it was completely shut down, that means that this was the only Cars game I don't get to actually play. Just kidding, because it is currently January 2025, and thank God I waited months to finish this video because someone actually posted a YouTube video letting people know that the World of Cars Online has been brought back by Sunrise Games. Sunrise Games is known for bringing back other dead online games like Toontown and Club Penguin, so I downloaded a browser that is able to play Flash games, signed up for an account, created my very own car. I am Luigi Cooliomeister, and voila! I was instantly transported back to the year 2010. Let's go. Get it? Because I'm Luigi. Click where you want to go. Okay, well, probably Radiator Springs, because I feel like if there's anybody here, they're probably going to be at Radiator Springs. Wow, there's a lot, actually. There was actually a lot of locations to choose from, which means my chances of running into anyone was probably pretty low. I mean, how many people were out there on a Friday night playing a 15-year-old defunct MMO about a children's movie? But after driving around for literally less than a minute, I saw another person. Car. Fast shiny, there's somebody there! Fast shiny bearings. Wants to be your friend. Yes, I accept. Wow, I already made a friend. Hello.
Soup.
I'm Luigi, not affiliated with that one guy. Why did it censor one and affiliated? Oh God, this guy thinks I'm probably a weirdo. After getting to know each other a little bit more, he said,
I'm gonna help you get racing points.
Okay. And I think that this was the start of a beautiful friendship.
Follow me to Redwood. Good race.
What do I do with the points?
Those are for the Piston Cup races.
What can I spend my money on?
Nothing right now.
This complete stranger to me just let me win 5 races in a row so I can earn points in a game that no one else plays. Here on a Friday night with a stranger behind the screen, for this brief moment in time, it felt like we were best friends.
Want to go to Willie's butt?
This is the sound of my soul. This is the sound. I wanna take it to the world.
Do you play this game a lot?
Yeah, I do. It's a part of my life.
They let me know how important this game was to their life, and as he started to give me a tour of all the different places in the game, I felt happy that I was around for them to share their passion with somebody else. Do you think we're the only people on this game?
As of now, yeah. But it's still cool to see this still getting love.
Ah, shit. I broke it. Oh no, I hit home and now it's broken. He's gonna think I left without saying bye! Wait, did he leave too? Oh no! He's gone! No! I hit home and it kicked me out and now he's not online anymore! Fast shiny bearings, no! Cars Mater's Tall Tales, the video game, is now our 6th video game into the Cars universe, and we still don't even have a second movie. It was released for the Nintendo Wii and PC in 2010 and is based off of the Mater Tall Tales TV show. You know, it's kind of ironic how they pumped out all this Mater material because they realized how popular he was, and then Cars 2 came out and it was all Mater-centric and ended up being literally the only Pixar film with a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes because it went balls to the wall with this spy theme and had too much Mater and not enough Lightning McQueen. So they also decided to make a Mater TV show that I actually don't remember seeing. I don't know if it was good or not, but then they also made a Mater video game that goes along with the TV show. I'm baffled. I'm baffled at how they're pumping out so much material for this franchise so far. There's only been one movie. It's insane. But I mean, at least they did get Larry the Cable Guy. I mean, he is the heart and soul of Mater, so I can't imagine them getting anyone else. So there's that, I guess. I also had the hiccups for most of this section, so I do apologize for that. But moving on to the actual game, the gameplay for Cars Mater's Tall Tales, the video game, is based off of the short cartoons from Cars Toons. Wait, Cars Toons. Cartoons. Cars, Toons, cartoons. Oh my god, I just got the reference. It's a party game style with a bunch of different mini games based off of the show. Things like Mater being a fire truck or whatever shenanigans he gets into. For $20 on Steam in the present day, it's not bad, but I hope to god that this wasn't a full price $60 game back then because there's really not much I can say about the game. Granted, I'm a 28-year-old man playing a party video game about a Disney film all by myself in my room with no friends, so this game probably would hit different under different circumstances. Nonetheless, it was well made and somewhat interesting with different variations of mini games. It's a lot better than just having a bunch of different versions of Simon Says or just ripping off Mario Kart in a terrible way. So I do give some credit to some originality there. My initial reaction to the game was a hard kerchew thumbs down, but looking back, I think I might have been a little bit too harsh on it. Down the drain for me. I can't believe I paid $20 for that. Ugh, Jesus. It actually wasn't that bad. Cars 2, the video game, released in 2011 and marks a significant turning point for the world of Cars. The movie took a big pivot to a spy-themed movie featuring Mater, which ultimately led the film to become the worst-rated film in Pixar's history. There's a lot of analysis we can do about why this movie bombed as hard as it did, but this isn't a video about the movies, it's about the video games, and Cars 2 was actually surprisingly good. While the big changes didn't work for the movie, it actually works out phenomenally well in the video game. Departing from the typical open-world experience in Radiator Springs, we now have more linear missions with a compact storyline to follow. It also moves away from a realistic driving mechanic to full sending the balls to the wall spy thriller, making the game feel more like a Mario Kart game. Level design's pretty cool. This is kind of exciting. I'd eat this up if I was a kid. You can use different gadgets and the game feels a lot more arcadey, which kind of works for the universe. What? You can attack people? I didn't know that was a thing. The spy stuff works great, and it's perfectly translated into a video game. There we go, baby. It ends up with something unique that makes it stands out from your typical racing game. It feels like the developers actually thought out gameplay mechanics before slapping the Cars IP on it. And I think part of that is because the game was developed by Avalanche Software, a company that wasn't exclusively making tie-in movie games and seemed to have a handle on how to make good games. You might recognize that name for their most recent game, Hogwarts Legacy, but before that, they made Tak and the Power of Juju, a game that
that I absolutely adored as a kid, and it's an original IP that was thought up by the CEO of the company. Nickelodeon actually helped publish the game, and due to its success, created the TV show based off the game. This company was the real deal, and Disney made a good choice by letting them have control over the IP. Disney ended up buying Avalanche Software too, but we'll get back to that later. But where I think this game really shines is the additional modes in the game separate from the story. There's this hunter mode where you drive around picking up different gadgets and using those to hunt down other cars. It sounds similar to Mario Kart battles, but I think it's a better description to call it Rocket League with guns. This mode feels like it could have been its own competitive esport, mostly because of the feature to drive backwards and shoot the gadgets behind you to take out other cars. While Mario Kart operates on using items either in front of you or behind you, in this game you have full control to shoot any item however you want. Oh, that's cool though. And to this day, I'm not sure why no other game has made driving backwards such a core mechanic of the game, because it actually works pretty well and adds some skill to it. Oh my god, I could backwards. Oh, and it actually inverts the direction of the stick. Imagine being able to do that in Mario Kart, and that could completely shake things up. Being able to use any item you pick up in Mario Kart and turning backwards and shooting your enemy with a red shell, that would be great. I mean, I know you could throw them behind you, but it's not the same. There's like some skill level involved there, and I don't know, it just shakes things up. I think it'd be cool. Mario Kart, please add that. Anyways, there's a couple of other modes, but some of them are locked to only multiplayer, so I didn't get a chance to play them. Either way, this game has some incredible value, with 15 different racetracks and 6 different arenas for those other modes. And the arenas aren't just reskinned versions of the tracks, they feel like their own unique thing that were thought up and made. They're not just like lazily haphazardly put together. And if I had to sum up this game in one word, that's what it would be. Unique. Most tie-in movie games, if you take away the IP it belongs to, you're just left with a generic video game with no innovation. Hell, even Cars 1 is just a generic racing game with Lightning McQueen slapped on. But if you replace everything in Cars 2 with generic vehicles, you're still left with a unique game unlike anything else that was out there. Cars 2 ended up getting a 3DS and PlayStation Portable version released a couple months later, both of which were developed by 2 different companies. While handheld games have improved a lot over the past couple years, giving us actual 3D driving, voice acting, and cutscenes, it's still a completely different game than its console version. You drive around doing different races, and there's a couple of spy-themed stealth missions that you complete. There's an actual story mode and cutscenes, kinda. I mean, the best that you can get on a DS, I guess. What do you want me to say about it? It's definitely the best handheld Cars game that we've gotten so far, but again, it's just not really anything interesting, and I didn't play it as a kid. I have no nostalgic attachment to any of this, so it's a game. It's a game that exists. I can't take any more of this. This is so damn boring. I fucking hate the handheld games. I think that Cars 2 has kind of dethroned the first Cars game to be the best one so far. It was surprisingly good. I enjoyed it. This gets a ka-chow. Nintendo DS version gets a big old kerchoo from me. And now we present to you a brief introduction to every single Cars browser game. Disney Cars Jigsaw, Disney Cars Hidden Letters, Cars 2 Driving, Cars 2 Coloring Characters, Lightning McQueen Coloring, Cars Hidden Stars, Lightning McQueen Dress Up, Cars 3 Demolition Derby, Cars 2 World Grand Prix, Cars 2 Chrome Missions, Carchinko, Guido Fantastico, Lightning's Off-Road Training, Extreme Off-Road Rush, Lightning Speed, Flo's V8 Stop and Go, Flo's V8 Cafe, Cars Hidden Objects, Interactive Movie Poster, Doc Hudson Time Trial, Mater's Memory Game, Luigi's Casa Della Tires, Luigi and Guido's Tire Rush, Radiator Springs Racing, Mater to the Rescue, Ramon's Painting, Ramon's Coloring Book, Lightning McQueen, Desert Dash, and finally, Tractor Tipping. While Planes is not technically a Cars video game, I still wanted to talk about it here because the more I think about it, the more I think about how weird Planes is. Planes released in 2013 and produced by Disney Toon Studios, and it was supposed to be the hot new series in the Cars universe. It was obvious that they were really pumping this up, but it wasn't Pixar, and that probably is why it ended up not being that great. They were able to land Dane Cook as the star of the movie, Dusty Cropper. This was back when they were trying to make Dane Cook a movie star, and I'll admit it, it's a little embarrassing, but I was a fan of Dane Cook, okay? I admit it. I liked him. I mean, I was like 10 years old, and I definitely shouldn't have been listening to him or watching Good Luck Chuck, both of which were not really appropriate for kids, but I was a fan, alright? But that didn't really motivate me enough to want to see this movie, which I probably didn't miss out on much because it was met with pretty negative reviews, and the franchise has pretty much been forgotten. Even Planes the video game doesn't have its own Wikipedia page. And with all of the information that I've given you, and maybe you've seen the movie and you have your own opinion about it, maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't, I bet you probably wouldn't guess how much money this made. Because Planes
grossed $240 million on a $50 million budget. It was, for all intents and purposes, a pretty successful movie. Like money-wise, monetary-wise. Maybe not by the critics, but it was successful, and I don't understand. I don't understand how it made that much money. But because it made so much money, it also got a sequel that also made $147 million with a video game that I completely forgot about and I didn't play, and I'm not gonna play because this doesn't even count as Cars anyways. I'm just baffled that Planes has made so much money and was kind of successful even though it wasn't received well, yet people kind of forget that it exists. Like, you don't see Dusty Crop Hopper anywhere. I don't even think you'd be able to know his name. If I showed you a picture of him, would you know who this character is? But if you see a picture of this red car, everyone knows it's Lightning McQueen. It's like completely been forgotten about, and it's obvious that they were trying to make this the next big franchise, but it just failed even though it made a bunch of money. And more importantly, what I need to know, are there actually fans of Planes out there? Like, this was 2013 and 2014, so the kids who grew up with Lightning McQueen are too old for Planes now, but are there kids that grew up on Planes and they were like, nah, I don't care about Lightning McQueen, I like Dusty Crop Hopper and his famous catchphrase, the famous catchphrase from the movie. Here comes the airplane. That was the worst airplane noise. Does he have a catchphrase? I don't know. But anyways, Disney Toon Studios ended up shutting down, and along with that, the Planes franchise was left to fade into obscurity. And I definitely spent more time talking about Planes than the actual video game because the Planes video game sucks. It sucks too. Came out for Wii, PC, and DS, and the first 10 minutes is spent doing a half-ass tutorial of learning how to fly with this big, empty, open sky, and there's nothing around. It just looks like the most lazy tutorial I've ever played in a video game. Instead of making it incorporated like into the story and making missions and making it like a fun thing, you're just flying around in the air and you're trying to learn the mechanics. It's boring. It is really boring. As far as the actual gameplay, it consists of picking different characters from the movie that each have their own story, and the story is you flying around an area relating to the character and completing a list of objectives for the area. Oh gee golly, I love to crop dust. I mean, it is probably a better Wii game. I mean, it's definitely very mini-game-esque, and so for kids who are a fan of Planes, they probably enjoyed it, but there's really nothing too riveting here. It's kind of just different mini-games featuring your favorite character. It probably works pretty nicely as a Wii U game for kids, so I can't hate on it too hard, but seriously, are there any fans of Planes out there? Like, do people love these movies? I need to know. Planes the video game was quite interesting. I think I'm gonna have to rate that Kerchoo as well. So I didn't actually watch Cars 3 when it first came out in 2017. I was already an adult by then, and I don't think that the time frame between Cars 2 and Cars 3 was big enough to give me that nostalgic feeling of wanting to watch it. But I did watch it a couple years ago, and I'm pretty surprised at how good it was. They basically scrapped all the over-the-top spy stuff and went back to pulling at your emotional heartstrings. It tells the story of an aging Lightning McQueen struggling as these new racers come in with their dang-fangled technology, and he comes to grips with the fact that he's just not as fast as he used to be. That's probably why I enjoyed it, because, I mean, as an adult, that's something that you relate to a lot more, both figuratively and literally. I mean, I don't think I can run as fast as I could, and I'm also feel like I'm being left behind when it comes to technology. Very quickly. But, you know, that's a whole nother point. That's an existential crisis for another time. But it is a good movie, and I would recommend it. And obviously, besides Cars 2, which everybody hated, I thought that the Cars franchise was universally loved. But as I sit here making this video, I realize that they don't even have that great of scores on Rotten Tomatoes. Cars 1 and 3 sits near the very bottom of the list, sandwiched between Lightyear and Elemental, both of which came out very recently. The more I think about Cars in general, I'm confused on how Pixar's worst franchise, based off of Rotten Tomatoes, became such a dominant force in pop culture. Anyways, Cars 3 Driven to Win was developed by Avalanche Studios again for the PS4 and Xbox One, a brand new generation of Cars games. However, when trying to play it on my emulator, yes, I emulate things, but let's just keep that between me and you, alright? Don't tell anyone. 2 minutes into the first cutscene, it just breaks. Oh no, and I think it crashed. Fatal error. But luckily, I do have a PlayStation 5 downstairs. So I just had to go downstairs and buy Cars 3 on the PS5 for $40, and I really hope that it was worth my money, and it better be. And I don't feel like going upstairs and plugging it all in just to play the game for an hour, so we're playing it on the TV
downstairs. Yes, I paid $40 for a game that is now on sale for $4, and I sat there on the couch recording my TV screen. I will do anything for content. Now, Cars 3 was made by the same developers that made Cars 2, except Disney bought Avalanche Studios, and then they ended up closing down the studio, which then got purchased and brought back to life by Warner Brothers, which is why they ended up making Hogwarts Legacy. But there must have been, like, in progress, and they probably worked out a deal to finish the game or something, because the studio was shut down in 2016, and then this game came out in June 2017. And then after that, they didn't do any other projects until like 5, 6, 7 years later, until Hogwarts Legacy came out. So they must have worked something out to keep working on it. But because Cars 2 and Cars 3 was made by the same company, there is a lot of similarity in the gameplay between the two games. You have similar racing mechanics, linear missions, unlockable characters, and all of that jazz. Except the two very big differences here is, one, without all the spy stuff from the Cars films, you just end up with a more generic racing game. All of the stuff that made Cars 2 great has now been taken out. Yeah, the racing still feels nice and you have some arcadey elements to it, but I really liked all the little gadgets and abilities that you can pick up from the second game. But two, and most importantly, they didn't get my boy Keith Ferguson or Larry the Cable Guy. They got some guy named Ben Rush who only has other credits in South Park and Injustice 2, but he actually does a pretty great job. I didn't even realize that they were using someone different, and he really does sound like Lightning McQueen, so.
Time to kick it in.
Ben, you did a good job. Let's give it up for Ben. I think he deserves some recognition there. But Larry the Cable Guy, was he busy? Did you guys even bother asking him? He's a mainstay in every single Cars game as Mater. I don't care if he sounds similar, Larry the Cable Guy is Mater. It's his soul, it's his DNA. There's no reason. I cannot fathom that Larry the Cable Guy turned this down because he's been in everything. Did you guys ask him? I don't know if I can move past this once I figured that out, but it's actually not that big of a deal because Mater barely talks in the game anyways. Cars 3 is kind of a weird game anyways. This was in 2017, long after tie-in movie games were no longer a trend. And like I said, there was probably some kind of deal worked out where Avalanche had to complete this game before moving on to other projects, but I'm surprised that it just wasn't canceled altogether. I'm actually surprised this game was even released. But the game itself is just okay, and honestly, there isn't much I can even say about it. You take away all the spy stuff, and you end up with just another generic racing game based in the Cars universe. We've just basically come back full circle. That game was actually kind of fun, not gonna lie. At the start of my 10-hour journey of playing every Cars game, I wanted to know how the hell they squeezed out 8 video games for a franchise that only has 3 movies, but I don't think that was the right question I should have been asking. The obvious answer is money. But how did Lightning McQueen, a character from Pixar's worst performing movies, pumping out average films and average video games, become a pop culture icon? I'm confused, but also impressed. By all accounts, Lightning McQueen should have faded into obscurity, but nearly 20 years later, he's still a beloved character for adults and children everywhere. A character who was doomed to be forgotten has transcended the boundaries of his own franchise. I don't understand why, but I love this little red car. And when Cars 4 finally releases in theaters, my butt will be in that seat, front and center, as I wait to hear that famous line, ka-chow.